The Chicago Blackhawks are red hot. The Bulls are trying to tread water and hoping and praying that the superstar point guard returns. Both baseball teams are in spring training. The Chicago Fire just started their season yesterday. And we're right around the corner from March Madness. I am Ernest James, and I will be taking you curbside. This is Curbside with Ernest James. Well, hey, welcome back to another installment of Curbside with Ernest James. I am your host, Ernest James. I am co-host and sports contributor of Our Town with Chicago's Progressive Talks, Mike Sanders. You can also find me as the Chicago Bulls featured columnist on the Bleacher Report. You can find some of my sports musings on Sportsnet at ibtimes.com. I'm a Chicago Now blogger. I talk about relationships and so on and so forth. And I also have my own creation. It is called The Outside Analysis, where I cover sports, news stories, as well as anything that may make you smile, chuckle, grin, or what have you. As you can say, I am some of everywhere. You can follow me on Twitter at Ernest Shepard or at _James Theory. You can like the Facebook page. It is theernestjamestheory.com or the Ernest James Theory on Facebook, not .com. There's no .coms there. I'm primarily an all-around guy, sports fan, poetry fan, movie buff, music head, whatever you think can't be covered, it can be covered. I am whatever I need to be, whenever I need to be, and however I need to be. But you don't want to hear about me. You want to hear about some of your favorite teams right now. And one of those favorite teams right now should be the Chicago Blackhawks, who, after their 2-1 shootout victory versus Detroit the other day, they currently stand at 19-0-3. They've continued their consecutive game streak of not losing a game in regulation. It has been extended to 22 games right now, and they're facing a Minnesota Wild team that has a totally different look this year versus last season. I'm hoping that the streak can continue while they're facing the Wild. And following the Wild game, they have a road and home game, if I'm not mistaken, versus the Colorado Avalanche this coming up Wednesday and Friday. What do you think about the Blackhawks right now? If you have some feedback, I'd love to hear what you had to say. You can like the Facebook page, The Ernest James Theory, and you can tell me some of your Blackhawks stories or offer some of your Blackhawks thoughts. I would try my best to respond to them as soon as I possibly can. I like to get things interactive. Also, if Facebook is not your thing and you want to get at me in some other way, follow me on Twitter at Ernest Shepard, and you can tell me your Blackhawks thoughts there, as well as your thoughts for any other sports teams that are out there that you'd like to talk about or you'd like to hear covered. Um, Back to the Blackhawks for a moment. Patrick Kane, who got credit for the game-time goal yesterday after a wonderful, wonderful diversion from Victor Stahlberg, who, and quite frankly, he's playing his behind off. Patrick Kane got the game-time goal late in the third period when all seemed as if the Blackhawks were going to take their first loss in regulation. Kane came up after Stahlberg's diversion and had a pretty nice goal. And he followed that up with the goal in the shootout, the lone goal in the shootout, giving the Blackhawks the 2-1 victory. Kane, who has been a totally different player than what he was last season. A lot of people wanted him shipped out of town, hoping and praying that the Blackhawks can pick up a goalie. I know that there were some Ryan Miller for Patrick Kane rumors that were floating around out there. Anything and anybody and anyone that can stop the puck from getting into the net for Patrick Kane was pretty much being discussed amongst the fans. I'm not 100% sure how many of the rumors were true, but I must say, thankfully, that nothing happened. Patrick Kane, he's leading the team with 26 points. That includes 11 goals and 15 assists. And this is basically his coming out party. And it's what many fans, including myself, expected from the number one draft pick from several years ago. One of the things that the Blackhawks do need to clean up, though, is they're going to have to get better in penalties in regards to scoring when they have an advantage. When the Blackhawks are going 5-on-4 on the ice, they're going to have to do a better job in regards of getting scoring opportunities. Sometimes those opportunities go a little bit lacking. It leaves a little more to be desired, quite frankly. And it would be nice to see them clean that up and start putting some pucks in the net behind that. Start getting better scoring chances while they have that man or two-man advantage. And just take advantage of the opportunities when they're there. The Blackhawks, they started the season on fire, basically, trashing the LA Kings with 5 goals in that game, and then they spoiled us coming out with another barrage of goals the following game. So we kind of sit back as fans and as observers, and we're thinking, this is a high-powered Blackhawks offense. I want to see scoring all the time. Where right now it seems as the team is, now I won't say playing tense, but I can suggest that they're playing with a little bit of pressure of trying to maintain that streak, which so far has put them far and away from the competition. 41 points in the NHL, tops. The closest team to them is 9 points behind, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the Anaheim Ducks, who have 32 points. When you look at the playoff picture, the Hawks are, unless they go on a total slide, which I don't foresee them losing 9 games in a row like they did last season. I don't see that not with this team, not with the way they've been playing, not with Corey Crawford and Ray Emery playing the way that they have been playing. I don't foresee those things happening, so I don't see a 9-game slide going on in their future. They're virtually guaranteed with 17 points ahead of the 8th place team. I don't see why the Blackhawks do not make the playoffs. So is it time to start discussing Stanley Cup? Should Blackhawks fans or hockey fans, fans of the original 6 teams, should they be expecting a Stanley Cup trip in the future? Now that remains to be seen, but so far so good out of the Blackhawks, and I hope it continues. I want to switch gears a little bit, talk about the Chicago Bulls, who recently lost to the Indiana Pacers, a very, very tough loss, where they lost by 3. I cannot understand the play at the end of the game where the inbound pass was given to a Joakim Noah who didn't seem ready for the pass or didn't expect the pass. And he fumbled the ball, and he kind of collided with Lou Alding, who didn't fumble the ball, and the ball went into the hands of David West. It was a terrible, terrible play. I have some criticisms in regards to that play and in regards to some of their fourth quarter execution. Um, One of my criticisms is how in the hell did the ball not go to Marcus Teague, who, as the point guard, should be having the ball in his hands, making some tough decisions and some good decisions. You know, why is it that the ball is in the hands of Marco Bellinelli, who is a pretty good ball handler, and he can make good decisions as well. But let's be real, he's not a natural point guard. So why is the ball in his hands in the crunch time, in the closing minutes of the game, and Marcus Teague is there virtually being ignored on offense? I counted at least 4 offensive possessions, and the ball went into Marcus Teague's hands one time. There were moments where Joakim Noah looking around for someone to pass it to. Marcus Teague is right there, and Noah just said, "You know what, Rook? I can't give you the ball. I don't trust you." I think that's one of the reasons for their 97 to 94 loss to the Pacers. Although, despite the loss, I must give them some credit because they didn't, from my understanding, they didn't make it into Indianapolis until noon. They did not have a shoot around, basically just a walkthrough in regards to what they're going to do during the game. And when the team has trouble that way, when they have things like that that goes on, you kind of had to give credit where credit was due. They were without Kirk Heinrich again. They were without Taj Gibson, who will probably miss at least another week, perhaps two. They were without Richard Hamilton, who, once he returns, probably needs to stay on the bench and come in as a reserve because the team has played well with Bellinelli as a starting shooting guard. Um, One surprise development yesterday in the game was Derrick Rose sitting on the sideline with his team for the first time all season. Derrick Rose, as you recall, tore his ACL game one of the NBA playoffs versus the Philadelphia 76ers, and he has not been seen on the sideline since. And as a matter of fact, every game that the Bulls have played, he's either watched from the locker room or he's watched from one of the suites. And it makes me scratch my head a little bit. And I'm not trying to criticize Rose. I'm not going to get on him too tough. But at the same time, normally when guys have injuries, they prefer to stick with their team. They prefer to kind of root their teammates on, kind of get a feel for what's going on out there on the court, given the environments, hoping and praying that they get that itch for competition and come back. It kind of serves as motivation to push them forward through rehab, and it's a strategy. I'm not sure if the idea was Rose's idea or if it was the idea of the Bulls, but at the same time, it just when you see guys are out for the year, it hasn't stopped them from putting on suits and ties or sports jackets and nice slacks and sit down on the bench cheering their teammates on. It's not a word or letter I in the word team, and it's alarming to me that he chose that game for him to make his comeback to the bench at least. And it begs the question, is he or is he not going to return before the end of the season? You know, it, with the Reggie Rose situation, where Reggie Rose came out and said how what kind of moves the Bulls made may have a huge sway in whether or not my brother returns. Those are the words of Reggie Rose. And although people trashed him for that, I would not be surprised if there's a ring of truth to it. You're looking at this Bulls team, they try hard, die hard, they do what they can in order to win, but they have so little margin for error. And with that small margin for error, they know in their heart of hearts they probably cannot defeat a healthy Miami Heat team in a 7-game series. And that's with or without Derrick Rose. So it begs the question of, if I'm Rose, why should I return, knowing that this team did not make any moves before the trade deadline, knowing that this team did not significantly improve themselves? Not that they could, given their salary cap restraints. Let's get that out there right away, right now. Not that they could do that, but knowing that this team is probably going to maybe win one playoff round, they'll probably get demolished by the second round opponent. And God forbid if they end up in that dreaded fourth or fifth seed slot, and they have to face Miami in the conference semifinals. That's pretty much open and shut. See you later. We kicked your ass. Go home. chew on that.